excited to be here at the Future of Leadership is Homegrown. I think there's a lot of exciting things happening here in Columbus, Ohio, and even more broadly across the Midwest. Something that I think is really important to note is that at this time and this economic growth we're experiencing as a state, everyone's talking about Intel and Meta and Google and all these incredible companies coming into the region, but how can we also at the same time emphasize, support, spotlight small, medium-sized businesses that are homegrown that could be the next Intel, Meta, Google data center. So I'll share a little bit about myself, the organization that I'm a part of, and the incredible impact that we have here across Ohio. I'm here on behalf of Form 5 Prosthetics. We are a nonprofit organization founded in 2017 here in Columbus, Ohio. But actually way before then, I was a high school student that started Form 5 out of necessity. I was born without my hand. My entire life went without a prosthesis until I was in those teenage years. And there's all this innovation right now and advancement in technology, and it's happening in the medical device space. But what I saw as a user was that I wasn't connected to some of that innovation. And so as a result of that, my experience going the more traditional medical route and getting a prosthesis, the final device didn't empower me the way that I wanted it to. And so saw this as an opportunity at the ripe age of 14 to make change and really see how we can change the narrative of what is possible with having a limb difference. And so starting an organization at a young age was very challenging, but one of the most important things for me was bringing together an incredible team of people. And so as a nonprofit, we're structured having a board of directors, and when I share this slide, I really like to emphasize two things. One, the last 4 years, have been getting my undergraduate degree at Ohio State. And so running an organization and getting your undergraduate degree is something I don't recommend to a lot of people. It can be quite excruciating, but really all the advancement of our mission and the impact that we've made could not be possible without these people on the screen. And then the second point I like to bring up is that we're not a room of engineers. A lot of people see the work that we're doing as an organization and say, oh, it's a bunch of engineers doing that. We really look at a collaborative, inclusive, diverse approach, and that my vision for Form 5 simply is that we want to reinvent prosthetics. We want to reinvent what people think when they hear the word prosthetics. We want to reinvent what it looks like. And so for us, reinventing anything involves bringing different perspectives, different backgrounds, different industries into the room to have these conversations. And so we aren't just a room of engineers. We have designers, we have medical professionals, we have, of course, engineering, but of course, for any operation, we have, business, we have development, fundraising, HR, as we continue to grow our organization. And so just very thankful as an organization, a nonprofit, all of these individuals donating their time, their skill sets to advance the mission of Form 5. So our mission is to empower people to successfully interact with their world and their future. And really what that means at the end of the day is meeting people where they're at, having those conversations, understanding their unique needs, what are their barriers that they face. And at Form 5, we really take a more holistic approach in how we empower them. Sometimes it looks like a device, sometimes it's community. Really want to know everything that they would need support with so we can empower them in that way. Our vision as an organization obviously stems from me being the founder. And so it's definitely more focused on individuals with limb differences and how we can create a world where they have the confidence, resources, and support to accomplish anything they imagine. And so it's neat that both our mission and our vision doesn't mention anything about our physical product or our programs, because we really believe at Form 5 that everything we do extends beyond anything physical we could provide anyone. There's times where someone comes to us and yes, they're looking for a device to play instrument in orchestra. And then just the opportunity to be a part of making that device and working with the engineers and the designers, they become empowered and realize how capable they are to not just be an orchestra, but maybe play a sport or maybe pursue a career that they're passionate about. So it's really unlocking that mindset of people with limb differences and showing them how capable they are. So we are a very young organization. we basically celebrated our 6th anniversary in August of this year. And so the exciting opportunity for Form 5, most nonprofits don't see past 3 or 4 years. So we're kind of in this new stride, and I like to think that our mission and vision is crystallizing. And so we've identified these 4 growth pillars, and I'll very kind of quickly move through them, but just wanted to illuminate some of the work that we're doing here in Ohio. So from a community standpoint, we offer a support group called the NUB Club. You can laugh because that's a great name. And so the NUB Club is a support group for individuals with limb differences as well as their families. It's just as important for the parents to have someone to talk to. My mom is very proud of me, but this is her most favorite program of the organization because this didn't exist 24 years ago when I was a kid. She didn't have a NUB Club or parents that were going through the same struggles that she was in raising me. And so just the representation piece, the community piece, is really what we're trying to cultivate through our NUB Club. Obviously, we are looking at the research and development, how we can address product development in a unique way that we're reflecting the needs of our users. So everything we do at Form 5 is custom application. The dichotomy between upper limb and lower limb and how product development is approached is kind of odd. And so the example that I always use is, lower limb amputations. Most folks, when they get a prosthesis, they get a prosthetic leg. But if that individual wants to do something more strenuous, like maybe become a marathon runner, they get a prosthesis that's called a blade. And so just that difference in the terminology, that device was designed specifically for marathon running, not walking every day. For whatever reason, in upper limb, what I experienced was, here is a arm, a hand, to help you be normal. And really what I've seen in my own experience and the folks that we work with at Form 5, we don't want to be normal, we want to be functional. Functional is normal. And so we really look at taking that custom application approach that's happening in lower limb and bringing it into upper limb, where if you want to play an instrument, ride your bike, do any of those things, we're going to create a device at Form 5 that does that one thing really well, rather than giving you a device and telling you that it does everything. We all know that there is no single device out there that does everything, even though Apple claims your phone can do it, we all know it can't. I'm just waiting for Siri to talk back at me right now. But really looking at these 4 categories as an organization: lifestyle, mobility, activity, and other. And the most important one I think to note here is that we have a leading product that's patent pending. It's called our bike arm adapter. So you saw in the video 2 users have the device. This past year we did our first round of clinical testing. We engaged over a dozen individuals across the state to test the device. I have a Form 5 bike arm adapter. I actually have been riding in Peloton the last 3 years. The furthest I've ever been on a bike in my life. So probably, I was 10 or 11 the last time I was on a bike, and now I'm, I try to ride 20 miles every weekend, but it doesn't always happen. One of the things that I think is unique about Form 5 and just the spirit and the innovation of our organization is they're always looking to do more, we're eager to be better, and so during the pandemic, we pivoted our production from prosthetics to PPE, really on a dime. And as an opportunity for the organization to, of course, empower our entire community during such unforeseen circumstances, we as an organization realized that we have the capability to manufacture things. And so we have a facility out in Westerville we just moved into in the beginning of this year. And so really we're excited, and if we can make 6,000 face shields in the middle of a global pandemic, how can we scale our mission and make 6,000 bike arms, maybe even more than that, and empower more individuals with limb differences to get on their bikes? So I'll go quickly through our education piece. We offer both a high school and college workshop, really meaningfully raising awareness of the disability community, but also giving students the opportunity to solve real-world problems. I started this at a young age, and there wasn't anything out there that would really foster this type of innovation. And there's so many students, this Gen Z generation sometimes gets a bad rap that they're not in tune with what's going on, but I think it's the complete opposite. I mean, there's students that we've worked with that even though it's a simulated experience and they're working on a mock persona or working with a mock persona, they're staying up all night painting the device to look like R2-D2 because that's what the user would want. The level of empathy and humanity that we see through these students is just amazing. And so we're really excited to continue expanding our educational programs over the next year, because really through our education programs, we're ideating that next generation of devices that's going to empower lots of people with lived differences. The last thing I'll touch on is just our work to be more sustainable as an organization. So we're a nonprofit, we're philanthropic based, that looks like donations, fundraisers, grants, all that fun stuff. But we obviously have a really big vision for Form 5. We think that we have the potential to have a national, if not global, footprint, and we cannot do that without finding a way to sustain our own operations. And so we, this year, launched our first social enterprise called Difference Makers 3D, where we're taking some of our technology, our passion, our ingenuity, and we're applying it to other kind of contract manufacturing efforts where we can support other businesses, but also support ourselves in bringing in the revenue that we need to continue growing our operations. So we're always looking for fun projects, things to work on. If there's folks in the room that might be looking for some kind of manufacturing prototyping services. I'll skip over questions. Just want to thank you for your time and having the opportunity to share my story, the work of Form 5, and the impact that we're making. Really excited to speak with the panel here today that I'll be moderating. And so at this time, I'll go ahead and call up our panelists. So today we have Lindsey Michaelides, founder of Strong Suit. Tobias Katz, Vice President of Construction and Design at Bootbox. Anunike, founder of Skellaware. I think those were the only slides I had to touch. So, go ahead and get started. Alrighty, so we'll begin our discussion today. Just kind of introduce yourself, your background, education, role in your company, things like that. So we'll go ahead. Why don't you start with Lindsey?
Hi, my name is Lindsey Michaelides. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Strong Suit, and we are a venture-backed startup here in Columbus, Ohio. Very fortunate to have Rev1, the partner whose lovely facility we're in today, as one of our investors, as well as a number of investors on each of the two coasts. At Strong Suit, we offer a smart, scalable concierge for professionals. So we tend to work with a lot of employers that have really talent-driven organizations. So think about financial services, big consulting firms, big tech companies like the Googles of the world. So a lot of these companies who their talent are the drivers of their business, either because their talent maybe is the product in the case of some of the big law firms or consulting firms, or their talent are the ones who are actually building and driving forward both the product and the sales of the business in the case of engineers and sales teams at Google. So we tend to work with those organizations and really support their talent holistically. We like to say that we take care of everything outside of work and in people's personal lives so that they can show up as their best, kind of most fully human selves, both at work and at home. And prior to founding Strong Suit, I'm one of those weird people who was fortunate enough to build a career as a business strategist. So I did that both internally for some large organizations and then also as a consultant. So spent a number of years at McKinsey & Company, and then also worked in-house in the strategy and innovation teams for a large media company, and then here locally for Ohio Health. And Strong Suit really came out of trying to solve a problem. In this case, after I had my first child and I came back from maternity leave, I was working at McKinsey & Company at the time, and they asked me to work on a project for the firm. They said, okay, in this case, we're not going to send you off to work for a client. We need you to solve a problem that we have here internally. And that problem is what they were calling their female pipeline problem. And they said, we have all of these incredible women. We can find all of these incredibly talented women all over the globe. We can attract them to our firm. We get them through the interview process and hire them. We train them. They perform exceptionally well, and then they leave. And we need to keep them because they're not making it to the highest ranks of leadership in our organization. And we need to figure out what's happening, why are we losing them, and what can we do to keep them. So I had always been really involved in women's leadership throughout my career. It was a problem that I was really passionate about. dug into it, uncovered a few key insights that really defied our ingoing hypotheses. We went into it thinking it was long hours, lots of travel, and lack of sponsorship and mentorship, which was keeping women from the top. And what we found out was that it actually wasn't a women's issue, it was a working household issue. It just ends up looking like a women's issue because the numbers are a little skewed. And what I mean by that is, at a place like McKinsey, and then we went on to replicate this at a number of other firms, including like the Googles and the Microsofts of the world, when you look at those firms and you start to look at the women that are starting to break into the upper echelons of leadership at those organizations, overwhelmingly, those women are married to partners with equally demanding careers. If you looked at my male peers at the time, overwhelmingly, that was not their situation. But my male peers who were married to individuals with equally demanding careers were actually more likely to leave these really high demanding jobs. So it's really a working households issue, and it's about the shifting demographics of households in the United States, the shifting demographics of the workforce in the United States. But unfortunately, what we're seeing is that is not playing itself out. Those demographic shifts are not playing itself out when we look at who's making their way through that leadership pipeline. And so our leadership is not changing while the face of America and the face of our households are changing. And so that was kind of a big insight number one. And insight number two was when we said, okay, so why are these people that are coming from dual income households or working households where all the adults in the household are working and there's caregiving responsibilities either for children or aging family members, why are we losing that talent? If it's not women, if that's the group we're losing, why is that? And what we heard from folks was that it was drop balls at home and in their personal lives. Because as you start to get into those leadership ranks, the requirements of your job become quite overwhelming. Everyone already knows the requirements at home when you're in a caregiving situation are also overwhelming. And so individuals were dropping these balls at home, and then they were left kind of throwing their hands up in the air and saying, something's got to give. My family and the people I need to take care of are not going to be the thing that gives. And so therefore, I'll take myself off of this leadership track, and I'll move on and I'll do something else that maybe gives me, quote unquote, a little bit more balance. And so it was really that problem that kind of ignited something in me to create a change for that and to create Strong Suit.
Really cool. I am Tobias Katz. I am the Vice President of Construction and Design at Box. We are a modular building solutions company that was founded around the shipping container and the modification with that. But since doing that, we've modified all different types of structures. And we do vehicles, we've done living solutions, commercial kitchens, sort of all of that. My background is in 2017, I graduated from CCAD with a dual degree of industrial and interior design. And for my thesis, I built a shipping container home out of a 20-foot container. Rewind a little bit, freshman year at orientation, our then president said that CCAD's biggest goal is to end the myth of the starving artist. And how do we do that? And throughout my time, I was thinking about how I learned so much in school, but that wouldn't help me have a place to live. And that wouldn't help me then ultimately have somewhere to build what I was creating. And so for my thesis, I had the idea to take a shipping container, which is this great, fantastic thing that's designed to go all across the world, and build this modular solution that would grow with me as I needed it. So for my thesis, I designed this really fun studio apartment out of a 20-footer, but I had this huge issue where I couldn't build it because, like most 21-year-olds, I didn't have the means to purchase all of the ingredients to build that house. In order to do that, I then looked to corporations. And as part of my thesis, I raised about $35,000 through 22 different international companies and in-kind sponsorships. Those companies donated everything from the paint that I used to my air conditioner and appliances to the container itself. But because I was also a student at that time, I hadn't learned everything that I needed to learn in order to build it. And so I also got expert advice from companies like Corning Kokosing, who came and taught me how to do electrical. With that, I graduated in May and had this little home. And I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do from there. And I got great advice to sort of treat the next few years of my life as grad school and try everything I could possibly try. Fast forward a few days, and I somehow got my first client. And so over the next year, I designed workforce housing out of 11 shipping containers, all combined into a duplex in Marysville. And I'm really happy to report that that is the first shipping container house occupied in the state of Ohio. Since then, we've built 3 of those. We're slatted to build a 4th one. And that house is actually being used as seasonal workforce housing for Honda. So when they bring in engineers to their Marysville plant, they can stay in that duplex as long or as little as they need. And we actually still have a little notebook that they can jot down suggestions or questions. And because they're engineers, they usually have those. Over the next few years, I was fortunate enough to get to work on lots of different projects, from historic renovations to food conversions to all sorts of different things. And I knew I wanted to join a team. I was working by myself for about 6 years, and it was great. I got to learn all different things, and I got to pivot a lot. But I was missing growth. And about 1.5 years ago, I was approached by this other great local startup, Bootbox, who had just done their first seed round. And they were looking to grow their design department and looking to expand into more building solutions. At that time, we only had one product line. And so they made me an offer. I joined the team. And in the past 15 months, we've done about 40 projects all across North America, ranging from little 10-foot offices to the biggest project that we did was a underprivileged food hall in DC, which was 8 containers all combined, individually owned by the restaurateur that was operating out of it. So it's this great incubator space for restaurateurs to get an ownership of their land, of their building, while they were paying a lease on the land to build some equity in that, but also start on a much smaller scale, starting in a 40-foot shipping container. With that, we've gotten to do all different fun projects. From that to, in August, we delivered an off-grid 50-foot party box to Burning Man that presented a whole lot of challenges as Burning Man flooded. And right now we're getting to work on a lot of really exciting things in the expanded modular space, where we start to look at things that aren't so small and how we can solve bigger problems like kindergarten classrooms to bigger restaurant developments. So.
Hello everybody, my name is Kenny Anunike and I am the founder and CEO of Scalaware. Scalaware is innovative protective equipment and AI-powered training devices that enhance player safety and skill development. Now, our unique product line also extends to other high-risk verticals like construction, military, our law enforcement, right? And then other high-impact sports like lacrosse, hockey, field hockey, right? Women's sports as well. I'm born and raised right here in Columbus, Ohio. This is near and dear to my heart. This is home. First generation in the States. My parents were both born in Africa. So I came here and my dad said, well, look, you have 4 choices. You can be a doctor, a lawyer, engineer, or architect. And I'm like, okay, cool. I ended up becoming a professional athlete, it goes back to a quick story, and I went to Olentangy High School when it was the Olentangy High School, right? And now we have like 4 others. But I remember I scored my first touchdown, and I came home and I said, hey Dad, I scored my first touchdown. He said, okay, but how was your math test? I see where this is going, but I love that because he instilled in me that education, that is the foundation of true knowledge, right? And that permeates into all aspects of your life. So I remember it was the first time that I actually got a scholarship offer, and it's from Duke University, actually, and it came into the mail, and my dad opened it, and he said, you have something called a scholarship. And I said, yeah, Dad, that means they're going to pay for our school. He said, really? He said, when's your next game? I'm coming. So I gave my biggest fan from then on out. He was in the front row, cheering and all that because his son was getting to do the very thing that he wanted for free, But in my mind, it really wasn't for free because I ended up sacrificing my body playing, playing sports at that level, So that was where things started to happen, and that was where I started having injuries, So yes, you're going to school, but you're putting your body on the line, to represent that school and to do something that you've always wanted to do. But it was a tremendous opportunity to go to Duke University and play football for them. while studying biological anthropology and anatomy. So I did receive my undergraduate degree, and I was headed to be a cardiovascular surgeon to fulfill my dad's wishes, but I ended up getting that call from the Denver Broncos to come and play, which was, life-changing and such a blessing, from God to be able to do that, and to step on that stage, and to gain that platform. But one thing I realized was that athletes just weren't staying safe. Right, we're getting bigger, faster, and stronger. Yet the technology and the equipment that we had was not keeping pace. So as a 21-year-old kid, I started thinking, well, why wait for somebody else to come out with the product and equipment that you need today? Why not come out with it yourself? So that's when I started to go down and utilize, just getting into the basement of Duke and really just start drawing on the whiteboards. And this would be nights before games. I mean, we're going to play Georgia Tech, we're going to play Clemson, but Stellar was just always on my mind. I said, I have to do this. And that was just a vision that was implanted in me, and to see where we are now is absolutely tremendous. So going back to, come back to Ohio, from there I was sent off to Duke, and I mean, I got a lot of flack for going to Duke, actually. Because everybody's like, hey, you got I can't mention that name, right? We got the team up north. That team up north is offering you a scholarship. You got all these scholarships, but yet I chose to go to Duke because I wanted to be a part of something greater than myself. I wanted to go somewhere where I didn't just inherit a tradition. I wanted to go somewhere where I could help to build one, right? I can get down into the foundation, really roll my sleeves up and build something from the ground up. And that right there plays a part in being an entrepreneur, being able to roll your sleeves up and build something that doesn't exist, or build something that get in and grow with other people, and really to have an impact. So I thought that was absolutely tremendous, and if I could go back, I would do it all over again. But the great part about what we're doing now is that we're leading a purpose-driven initiative, and that is to protect athletes and to literally revolutionize the way we think about protection. So I can tell you right now, one of the products that we're working on, and we have 2 patents that have actually just been granted, which is absolutely tremendous, out of 11 more that are coming down the pipeline. But the very first one is actually think about it as like your insert, an insert to your very favorite pair of gloves. So like your Dr. Scholl's insert to your favorite pair of shoes, right? But yet in your gloves, it allows you to still have that same biomimicry, same ability to grab, same ability to do all the things that you want to do without impeding your ability to get what you need done. So going back to high school, actually, when I had made a tackle and I'm on the bottom of a pile, I remember getting up and literally seeing my finger just going literally like straight up and down, right? And that was the first time that I had suffered a really, really bad injury, but the adrenaline is flowing, you're just like, man, I gotta go, I gotta get back in there. The trainer's like, come here, we gotta take care of this first. Because what she was trying to do was show me that you have a life to live after the game, so you cannot destroy yourself on the field so that now you're going to impede your quality of life afterwards. And that was a very big lesson that we learned, and that's really, really what we're using right now to impact and to drive that mission home is not only protecting you and ensuring your career longevity, but what's more important is your quality of life long after you've unlaced your last pair of cleats and the lights have shut off on the field, right? So that's a tremendous part of what we're doing right now. Happy to say today, since we've actually gone full-time on this since 2021, we were actually recipients of the Rev 1 DEI grant, which is a 6-figure grant, which is awesome, true non-dilutive capital, right, to really fuel product development. Such a blessing. Again, to fuel product development, which we're on track to having product on players by Q3 2024, and we're also the co-hatch recipients of their grant as well this year. So things are really, really rolling in the right direction for Skellerware. We're working on our hard goods, but also on our AI protected powered training devices as well in tandem, which is also going to revolutionize the way that we think about protection. We also now have 17 purchase orders that need to be fulfilled. So we're starting at the end, right? We have people willing to pay for the product, but we don't have the product yet. So that's a great place to be, but it also lights a fire in you and says, we gotta go. Because we've got some people that are waiting, they're hungry, and they realize the gap in protection right now in the industry, that there is a lack of creative design and what players need to keep us safe. So we're rolling on that right now. We're extremely excited to be a Rev 1 engaged company and to be really fueling this thing forward. So here we go.
Yeah, awesome. Obviously, there's 3 incredible renegades on this stage, and so many amazing things between you guys are doing. One thing that I think is a theme that I heard in all of your guys' responses was not accepting the status quo. And so I guess I'm curious, as you kind of reject the status quo and you're going after something, I think that you said, like, this doesn't even exist, or I don't know if I have the skills to do this thing. I guess, where did that drive come from? Any of you feel like answering it, just like, going against the status quo, wanting to change it? How did you kind of find that drive to, like, okay, I need to figure out X, Y, Z to make this thing possible?
I don't know if it's foolishness or what, but I would say, like, I've never believed that I was the smartest, the fastest, definitely not the most athletic, which I went to Duke for grad school on a scholarship, but I was athlete, like not the athlete.
I love that. Fellow Blue Devils in the house.
Yeah. But I think like the one thing that I've always believed, and I think it like just was instilled for me as a kid, was like I could figure anything out. Like, I might kill myself trying, but I could figure anything out. And I think that when faced with a hard problem that feels worthwhile, I think the other thing is like, to your point, the common thread is exactly what you said, Aaron, but I think also we all felt like passionate about like trying to tackle the problem. Like you have to like see it and feel like you can make an impact, but also feel like excited enough about it and feel like you can do it. Like there's lots of problems out there that are huge in the world that feel like too big for me. But then I think we all maybe stumbled into some that we felt like, oh, this would I think I could do something here. At the very least, like try to make a little dent in the world. So I think that's been my thing of just like a belief that like I can figure something out and like let's just try and see what happens.
Right, and I love that because also to your point, both of your points, we're all fulfilling something, like you said, that's passion-filled, right? So it's passion-driven. This is not something we saw and said, hey, that might be something that, might be something good to tackle. These are 3 things, or 4, that we're all suffering from ourselves. And we're saying if we're suffering from it, then there's a million other people who are suffering from it too. But entrepreneurship is hard. It's hard. If it wasn't, everybody would do it, right? So it takes the pioneers, it takes the trailblazers like us to go ahead and say, you know what, we're going to go ahead and tackle that problem head on, right? And we're going to make it happen. Think like so going back to even Duke, so I actually from getting hurt so many times, I had 5 knee surgeries back at Duke. Then Coach Cut petitioned for me to have a 6th year of eligibility. But for me to have that 6th year of eligibility, I had to enroll back in classes. So, because you can't be in, you're not in the NFL yet, so you have to still go to class. And at Duke, we went to class, I guarantee you that. So I had to make a promise to the university that I would get my degree. So when I actually went to Denver, there was no Zoom yet, it was Skype. So I was Skyping into class. I'm leaving practice and I'm Skyping into class. I'm writing my papers, emailing them in, but I ended up getting my master's degree from Duke the year that we won the Super Bowl in 2015. So I fulfilled my promise to Duke, and that's another thing. You have to fulfill your promises, right? If you make a promise to someone, fulfill it. But the most important promises you have to make are the ones to yourself. And you have to fulfill those, because those are the ones that no one knows but you and yourself, and those are the ones that typically slide under the rug, right? So I actually wrote my thesis on how high-performance athletes mitigate the biopsychosocial consequences of injury in sport. And that's truly when I went out and started to really understand that there were a million other athletes just like myself that was suffering from so many different ailments, right? Whether it be from the head, concussions, whether it be from arms, limbs, whatever it may be, upper extremity, lower extremity. And I said, that's really now, I have to do this because this is the status quo, right? It's just, hey, just accept it. It's all a part of the game, but no longer. Right, and then the same thing when I came back, and I ended up coaching for Ohio State for 2 seasons. So hired by Urban Meyer, retained by Ryan Day, tremendous time right there. Learned so much, But again, I learned that there were so many athletes that were suffering from the very ailments that I had as well, but they just weren't speaking up, right? So that's when I really said, you know what, we really got to take this thing off. We really got to go, because if you're not going to do it, no one else will.
So similar to Kenny, my father is a childhood immigrant. immigrants, and he was told he could be a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer.
That's it.
And so he became a college professor. He didn't want me to have that same boundary, and so my parents said you could do whatever you want as long as you do it well. And that opened up the can of worms of everything in the world. And me as a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed kid, my mom coined the term that I was a far, far thinker. And I was thinking about problems that were 10 years out for me. But that's all I wanted to focus on day to day. And so when I was in school and I was thinking through what I wanted to do, I wanted to solve big problems. And in order to solve big problems, you have to do them day by day. And you have to know what you want to do from day one to be able to then do them at day 1,000. And my big problem was to help with the housing crisis. And just in Columbus, we need 50,000 affordable houses within the next 25 years. That is not a one-person solution, that's not a one-day solution. But by working on things, whether it's a little office or a little kitchen, those are all elements that can then be turned into a really big solution for a problem. And it's a way that I can manage the big idea of entrepreneurship that I've been set out.
Sounds really cool.
I guess in your own words, what was that one moment when you said to yourself, like, this is the problem, how, you have this company you want to start, in your position to, solve this problem. What was that one moment that kind of defined it or solidified it for each of you?
So for me, I mentioned this work that I did at McKinsey when looking at the female pipeline problem, and we discovered it's not just a women's issue. And then we started looking at other kind of factors of diversity or underrepresentation in leadership. And we said, oh gosh, it turns out that the same thing that is holding back women, we thought we were solving an issue around getting women into leadership, and it turns out you can take any other underrepresented group and they face the same issues, and it is also preventing them from getting into leadership. And so we were like, gosh, so we know what the solution is. It's helping people manage all of their responsibilities outside of work so that they can stay in the workforce and that they can come to work fully rested, their head in the game, and not worried about the responsibilities that they're leaving at home. If we can solve that problem, then you're going to have greater diversity of every kind at the highest ranks of leadership. And I truly believe that when we have greater diversity of every kind at the highest ranks of leadership, that changes the world. And so then when we presented these findings, and I was so jazzed up about this, I was like, oh my God, we figured out the answer, and we got the solution, and we know what we're gonna do, and we went in and presented it to the board, and we said, okay, we figured this out. It's not a women's issue. It's kind of an everybody issue, and it's mostly impacting diverse candidates, and those people aren't making it to the top of leadership, and this is what you need to do. And the group was almost entirely white, almost entirely male. And they were like, so it's not a women's issue? It really feels like a women's issue. They were like, no, we've got all the data, we did all the work, it's not. And they were like, I mean, it feels like a women's issue. We're like, nope. And so then we're like, and here's the answer. And they're like, so we have to talk to people about what's happening at home, and we have to help them manage their home lives in order to keep them as leaders at work, because we just that's home. We don't talk about that. Home is home and work is work, and those two things are separate. And we asked everyone in the room, we said, okay, how many people here have children? And not everybody, but most of the room raised their hands. And we said, okay, how many people have other family members that they cared for or had responsibility for? Be it an aging parent, other family member, a few people raised their hands. And we said, how many people have a partner who stays at home full time? Every single person raised their hand. Every single person. And we're like, okay, so this is your answer. You see here, it doesn't feel like a problem for you because it's not a problem for you. And what we're telling you is it's not a problem for you, and the people for whom it is a problem, they're never making it to this room. And when you're wondering why they're not making it to this room, it's because they're facing challenges that you're not facing. And we have to help them with those challenges. And everyone was like, oh, okay. And you kind of see them thinking about it. And they're like, yeah, I think that this is maybe a bridge too far for us at this point. So let's talk about like a mentorship opportunity for women. We're like, oh my God. And so like that was the thing that I left. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is never going to change. Like people are going to continue to be like, oh, I wonder why we don't have my diverse leaders. Maybe we should do more mentorship. And like it's not going to change. Like, it's not going to change. And so that's when I just became obsessed with it. I was like, we have to do something. Somebody has to do something. I have all this data now. I'm an athlete. Data tells me I should do something about this. So like I'm going to go try something.
I can go next. I would say for me, I realized that this, similar to what you're saying, is not just a women's issue, right? I realized that this is not just an athlete's issue, right? This is an everyone issue. And the day that I realized this was, we had actually contracted someone to come and cut down. We had this massive tree in our backyard. Massive tree. I mean, this thing's huge, almost covered the whole house, right? So it's like, okay, we got to get this tree cut down. So contracted a company. The guy comes out fully prepared. I mean, he's got everything, right? He's got his hat, he's got his ropes, he's got it all, his saw and everything. He climbs up, and I'm pretty sure this guy's he's been in the industry for a long time. Climbs up there, he's cutting the tree limbs, just normal day. His foot slips, and he actually cuts into his finger. Like he cuts his finger, right? So now he slides down. I mean, as he's sliding down, you can see the trail of blood just coming down, right? So the guy's, he's really hurt. So he comes down and says, I'm so sorry. I just cut my finger really bad. I've got to go to the hospital. So I can see like the white meat inside of his finger. I mean, it's bad. So he actually goes and takes off, leaves all his equipment because he just has to go, right? And so now the owner of the company actually shows up. He says, I'm so sorry. My guy just gave me a call on his way to the ER. He said that he cut his finger, but I promised you a job. You've already paid for it. I'm going to climb up there myself, and I'm going to cut down this tree, right? So as I see him putting the owner of the company, right? Yeah, he told me he had 85 employees. Owner of the company puts on all his guys' gear, climbs up the tree, he's cutting down the branches. I'm sitting there thinking, man, opportunity is everywhere, right? You just have to have your eyes open to see it. So I'm saying like, wow, what if he was wearing our protective equipment and there was a chance that that saw could have warded right off of our equipment and cut through that or just slid off of that, and he would have been just fine cutting right through the branches and finishing the job. I would have never met the owner of the company because he would have never had to come out. This guy would never have to be in the ER. The owner of the company also wouldn't have to contract somebody else to finish the rest of the job they have for the day, and then also pay that guy workers' comp, right, while paying another guy too. So you see where I'm going with this. The owner of the company comes down and he says, and I said, man, you know I'm working on something that could have possibly prevented that from happening. He said, this happens more often than you think, and if you had this product today, I'd buy 85 of them, one for every one of my guys. And he also told me another aspect that they need, another piece of equipment that they need that we're working on now, right, that he says they need even more than ever. So you never know what the problem that you're solving can be for someone else, because you got to think about it. If you guys woke up today and I told you, you cannot use your hands, right? It's gonna be a very tough day, right? Unfortunately, right? So think about that, right? So you're talking about, again, quality of life. So just like the same thing when everybody has an Under Armour shirt or a Nike shirt, right? Hopefully soon a Skellerware shirt, But these items were built for high performance athletes, right? They're built for athletes who want sweat wicking capabilities. We've got Nikes, we've got Under Armours, and we're wearing them in everyday life. It's the same thing, right? So that's when I really realized I'm not just solving an athlete problem. I'm solving everybody problem. Because law enforcement, right? Women's sports, right? We're talking about military, construction workers, guys cutting down trees, right? Everyone needs to protect their hands, and that's just the first of many products that we have to protect the human body, as well as the AI power training devices that are going to enhance player safety and skill development, right? So we're really, truly revolutionizing the way that we think about protection, but that was the first one that really said, you know what, you gotta go in this company and you gotta get it started.
So as a young kid, I was always entrepreneurial, whether it was selling little things or making friends and organizing them into groups. And as a junior in high school, I became really interested in making jewelry. And it was my first dive into building things. And it was something that I could create this sense of personality that people could wear and they could take around with them, and that they would cherish. And I didn't know what I wanted to do with it. I didn't know whether I wanted to become a jewelry designer, whether I wanted to become a brand within a brand, or whatever. And my high school art teacher said I should set up a time to go and visit CCAD, the local art college. And through walking through CCAD as a 17-year-old with my little briefcase full of jewelry, I ran into Tom Katz, the then dean of CCAD's design school. And he looked at it and he humored me with a really nice portfolio review. And he said, you know, you're really good at this now, and you can make tens of these now by yourself. But if you come to design school, we can teach you how to build millions of them. And we can teach you how to reach so many people that you would have never thought about it before. And that clicked for me. And that helped me realize that I needed to learn how to get myself in as many rooms as possible and solve as many problems as I could possibly be in front of. And through getting that industrial design degree, which I like to call the problem-solving degree, I've then been able to be put in front of a lot of different problems. And right now, I'm getting to work on problems that are very near and dear to my heart because they're living spaces, and they're things that we touch all day long, and we don't really think about. And if there are things that I can do on my end to help alleviate people's stressors when they're most stressed out, when they're most frustrated, when they're happy, when they're sad, that's a job well done for me. And so being a part of an entrepreneurial building space and providing something like that is really my calling and something that I've enjoyed getting to work on.
Awesome. As founders and pioneering leaders, what is the one source of support that you've received that's a game changer? And in your opinion, what is one thing we need to create a better system, an ecosystem that supports entrepreneurship and big thinking?
I'll go first. So I was given the opportunity to fail. And I think that's one of the best things you can possibly give to someone. And in industrial design, we learned the IDEO principle of fail fast, fail often. And that's lost in a lot of different scenarios where there's so much stressor and so much emphasis on getting it right the first time. And sometimes that first round could be a cardboard prototype. It could be a little skin that you wear that doesn't work or doesn't have the AI technology. But it's something that you can test and you can ideate and you can fail with. And being able to fail under the shelter of CCAD and being able to then expand under the shelter that is Columbus, Ohio, where we're a growing city, but we're not a massive city. It's really been this nice umbrella that's helped me try and not know where my ideas could be pushed that would be too far. I've been privileged enough to get to push the envelope so much here that it's never burst, which I don't think other cities would allow you to do.
Sure. So I would say for me and for the team at Scalaware, coming through Rev 1 was tremendous for us. You know, it really, really did help to culminate all of our ideas, right, and just give us a direction and teach us, you know, things like failing fast, failing early, right, and being able to pivot, right, and go after the things that actually do matter and the KPIs that actually move the needle. You know, I thought that was tremendous. Really, just going through Customer Learning Lab, coming in and you don't know your left and right. You know, I mean, I literally would. So before even going to Customer Learning Lab, I was like, well, I started doing some research. You know, YouTube University. You know, that's a place where you you can learn a lot, right? You can learn it for free. You know, so and that's a startup founder's dream. You know, and that's the key word, free, until you scale and you can be able to pay for certain services. But I remember, you know, so coming back after getting let go from the Jets, and I'm like, okay, now what do I do? I need to take off on Scalaware, but what do I do? Well, first thing I was like, well, I need to protect myself. So let me go start get an operating agreement. Let me go get, you know, trademarks, start working on my patents. So I'm doing all of that, getting the business structure, the LLC, everything together, right? And making sure that our foundation is set up properly. And then, you know, it was able to get an introduction to the 2Rev1 and the customer learning labs. And I think that was really a tremendous turning point, because now it was like going back to school, you know, and really getting some expert advice on how you should be doing it, what you should be doing, and where you should be doing it, right? So I thought that was absolutely tremendous, and it really helped to streamline us and get us on the correct path, as opposed to making this step mistake, and now you're set back, you know, a couple months, right? So being able to have that, gaining mentorship, which I think is absolutely tremendous, but then also being able to really formulate your mindset, right? And your mindset towards being a true entrepreneur, and making sure that everything that you're doing is all in the correct position to put you in the best place to be successful in your business, and how to do that, right? So I thought that was absolutely tremendous. And then as you do that, you also get access to the expert network, where you're getting, you know, discounted services and the ability to really get expert advice, you know, in business, tax, right? In whether it be, you know, patent, things like that. So I thought that was actually, you know, the key point for us was really coming to Rev1.
I think for me, it's been people and networks along the way who have encouraged me to think bigger. Because I think, you know, to your point, I think along the way, you're taking an idea and trying to build something literally from thin air. And so along the way, you have to do all these tedious little check the box things, like an operating agreement, filing your LLC. Like I joke with people, but this is like a true story. When my co-founder and I started StrongSuit, we have MBAs and like have worked at impressive places. It took us 3 days to set up email, to like get an email domain, like that. We were like, why is this so hard? Like there's like really dumb things that are really hard and tedious, and that's like setting up your freaking email at your own domain. Like that's not actually like building a product or building a company or selling your product. Like, and so at times you can get so caught in the minutia of the like day-to-day things that have to be done, that I think sometimes you can lose the forest of the trees of like the big vision. And so for me along the way, I had people kind of consistently, like between my husband and some of my investors, and then, you know, folks at Rev1, and we were fortunate enough to go through Techstars. And like the Techstars network is constantly like encouraging you to think bigger. And so I felt like, and still to this day, I have these people who check in with me, and they will pressure test my thinking and challenge my thinking on different things. And they still, it's not like they're just like, you can do anything. It's not like they're just like motivational speakers, but they'll challenge me. But then at the end of it, they're like, okay, so like think bigger. And like, how can you think bigger? And like, what's the next big thing? Okay, like, so we were just talking about this little problem of setting up the website. So like what's the next thing? When are you going international? And like having people to consistently kind of encourage that, I think that's been huge for me to kind of keep me from getting stuck in what's small.
Yeah, awesome.
Kenny, you had mentioned that entrepreneurship is hard. I think something that we hear a lot from people who are not entrepreneurs, or even specifically younger generations that are thinking about what they want out of life. They think, I'm going to start a company and I'm going to be the next, you know, insert name of a tech giant here. What would you say to those people about what it really is like to start a company, and, you know, kind of to level set, but also to inspire? Like, how do you thread that needle?
You know, what I would say to them, the first thing is, I'm proud of you, because that's what it takes. We're all huge thinkers, not big, huge thinkers. And you can even say that we're a little bit crazy, right? Because
I'll admit it, I'm crazy.
We're all crazy, we are. Because like you said, we're creating things out of thin air, right? Some of them have never been done before, right? So to do that, that's a huge undertaking, and that's not something we have ever done before, right? So that's the first step, is to, like you say, think big, right? Think astronomical, right? Because at least you might fall amongst the stars. You never know, but if you think within in the atmosphere, you're going to be back on the ground, right? So that's one thing that my wife helps me with a ton, is to reel me back in, because I think so big. What if we do this? What if we do this? What about this? But and eventually something sticks, right? It's like, okay, actually that one is a great idea. But what does it take after that? It takes focus, it takes discipline, and it takes consistency to be successful in any one thing that you're going to do, right? So focus on relentless focus, right? So if you want to do that big thing, that big idea, you got to be thinking about it day and night, right, Tobias? Day and night. And then the second thing is having uncompromised discipline. Uncompromised discipline is saying, you know what, I'm going to make sure that if I want to do that thing that I want to do, that's huge, I'm going to gain mentors, right? I'm going to ask for help. Set your pride aside, ask for help, right? And say, you know what? I don't know everything. I'm going to go to YouTube University, but I'm also going to go and study, right? I'm going to go and get some mentors, people who are where I'm trying to be, right? And then the last thing is having consistency. You can't wake up and say, I'm going to be an entrepreneur on Monday and Thursday, but then on Tuesdays, and Saturdays, and Sundays, I'm out partying, right? Entrepreneurship is an everyday, all-day thing. You need balance. You have to have balance, right? Or else you're going to experience burnout. But that does not give you a way out and a hall pass to say, well, I'm going to take Thursday through Monday off, right? You can't do that, right? Or else you're going to get passed up, because it is extremely hard. It is. But it all starts with that mindset, right? Because here's the thing. You don't get what you deserve in this life. You get what you negotiate. Right? And I'm telling you right now, you get what you negotiate, but you also have to have that mindset at the beginning, right? I want it, I'm going to put a plan in place, but then I got to go execute. Got to go execute. I hope that answered your question.
For your skeletal wearables, are any of them like going to be smart clothing fabric sort of things to incorporate the safety mechanisms, or is it all just passive material-based clothing?
Both. The latter I have not fully patented yet, so I can't talk too much about that one, but you're absolutely right. Because again, I've identified as a high-performance athlete, what do we need on the field to be successful in our craft, right? But then at the same time, it's not going to inhibit our ability to be an elite athlete, but then also enhance our skill set on the field. So I'm looking at these products from a tri-lens. I'm utilizing the biological anthropology and anatomy degree that I have from Duke University. So I'm able to talk to the doctors that we have on board, and also the doctors at the hospitals that are treating these guys. But then I'm also able to work with our product design and engineers, right, and talk to them in a different way, because I understand how the body works in space, right? And then also from the end user, being a subject matter expert, having played at the highest level, would I wear this on the field, right? And is it going to stop me from getting my job done on the field, or is it going to help me and enhance me? So if the answer is yes, wear it. If it's not, go back to the drawing board. And then the third lens being the coach lens. Having coached at Ohio State, being the co-defensive coordinator, defensive line coach at Fordham University in New York, right? Understanding what I would want to put my players in as well. So looking at all the products from that tri-lens, and if it passes the test from check marking each one of those boxes, we pass it on to production. If it doesn't, it goes back to the drawing board.
Lindsey, something you said resonated with me, and when you showed up with data as to what the issue was, how do you control your sense of disappointment? I mean, you did everything you could and it still wasn't enough. Do you have any advice for when you come up against that hard wall? You know you're right, you've got the data, but you're still wrong.
So managing my face when faced with disappointment is not my strong suit, nor is patience. So I don't know if I'm the best one to give advice for this, but I will say, I think what I've learned over time is to lean into two other strengths that I have, because those are areas that I'm very impatient, and I don't do well with disappointment. So I lean on my other strengths, which are curiosity. So when people are like shutting me down, I try to get curious and ask more questions to understand what piece of the puzzle am I missing that if I had, maybe I could make a more compelling argument, or maybe I could break through to them in some way. Sometimes you're not going to do anything because their brain is biased, or they just have decided they're not interested. Like, that's going to happen. But rather than let the disappointment overtake me, I try to get curious. And then I try to use that to fuel my energy so then I'll just kind of take that information that I get back from getting curious and take the frustration around how that was received and just use that as fuel to get better, keep going, prove them wrong, all those things.
What is one thing that you've learned that you wish you would have learned a lot sooner through the process of building a business and just developing your ideas, going through everything you've done in this period of your career? What is something that you know now that you wish you would have done right from the get-go or might have sped it up?
I'll answer first. I think to piggyback a little bit about what both of you said is when you're a founder or in a leadership role of a company, you're taking care of everyone and you're taking care of the business and you're growing it 24/7. And I was extremely guilty of this when I first started, of not taking care of myself. And setting up time, whether it is a consistent coaching appointment or a therapy session or whatever it is, you need to set up time to make sure that you take care of yourself so that you don't get burnout. Because if you fail, it's not the company's fault. It's not the idea's fault. It's because you weren't taking care of your most essential resource, which is yourself. And learning that lesson as quickly as possible has helped me now, and hoping will help me through the rest of my life and entrepreneurial journey.
So I agree 100% with what Tobias has said. You have to take care of yourself. Just like, think about it when you're in an airplane and you have a child right next to you, what do they say, right? In the event of any type of a problem, right, please take your mask and take the oxygen first before assisting others. Because if you can't assist yourself, you can't assist. If you're not here, you can't assist anybody else, right? So you have to take care of yourself like this. I'm going to go get a workout right after this, right? I have to, right? Because if I don't get it in now, I won't do it the rest of the day. But again, having that self-awareness, understanding your strengths and leaning into them. I love what Lindsey said. Lean into your strengths. That's 100%. That's true. But at the other end of the spectrum, don't call your weaknesses or anything that you're not good at weaknesses. I don't have weaknesses, and I don't ever say that I do. I say that I have areas of opportunity, right? Because now it gives it a positive connotation as opposed to a negative connotation. Because if it's a weakness, I'm weak, right? I'm weak, and I never say that because then it's going to take you that much longer to actually go out and try to equate that and make that a strength or a strong suit, right? So that's why you need to say it is an area of opportunity. And to answer your question from my end, I would say start yesterday. Too many people wait and say, you know what, maybe next year when the bonus comes in, then I'll use that money to go, or maybe, and it becomes 1 year becomes 2 years, 2 years becomes 5 years, 5 years becomes 30, right? And then you never did that very thing that now you see somebody else doing. Because I guarantee you, all the ideas that we have in our minds right now, most of them, somebody else is thinking of too. Now it's just who's quickest to execute. Right, and that's one thing that happened to me actually back in 2012 when I was thinking of one of my AI powered protective devices before AI had become this big boom. Right, I was thinking of it. I have notebooks filled with what I was going to do. I didn't do it yet. I said, okay, this is the year that I'm going to do it. Someone's already come out with it. Right, but it's all good. I'm going to make mine better. In my mind. That's how I think about it. You know, that's what you got to do. I'm going to make mine better. Right, there's a million car manufacturers out here now. Right, there's not just one. So you have to have that sense of awareness about yourself and start yesterday.
I think for me, early on, I don't think I understood that I held this belief, but I held this belief that I had to go out and convince people to believe in what I believed in. Whether that was somebody that I wanted to come work on my team and work at Strong Suit with me, whether that was a potential customer or a potential investor, I felt like I have to convince them. And like I needed to craft the right argument, the right pitch. Like it was up to me to crack the code of what would convince them. And so I spent a lot of time trying to do that. And I think now what I realize is there are a ton of people out there that are going to see the world the way that you see it. And there's a ton of people that won't see the world the way that you see it. And now if I come up against somebody who just doesn't see it the way that I see it, that's fine. And now I don't waste my time and I just move on. Because there's plenty of people that do see the world the way that you see it and are going to think what you're doing is cool or the problem that you're solving is cool or they're going to be connected to your energy, like whatever it is. And they're going to want to like lean in and learn more and understand more and help you. And the people that need convincing, like now I just don't waste my time. And like, I don't have to be rude about it, but I'm just like, okay, cool, and moving on. And to just like continue to look for the people that want to lean in. Like I think what both of these guys are doing is so cool. And I'm already thinking about like, God, oh, I've got some people that I want to connect you to. And like, I'm already thinking about like who I can connect them to and who I can, like how I can help them further what they're doing. Like I'm going to lean into what they're doing. And so that's been my biggest lesson is like, don't waste my time, don't waste your time trying to convince people. Just spend your time out there trying to find the people that want to lean in and learn more and hear more about what you're doing.
Yeah, I think with that, we'll go ahead and wrap the panel. Thank you guys so much for sharing.